just landed on the moon in the Lambo, taking pictures with the zoom and the angle. We'll be coming back to you with the samples. Our predictions coming soon with a halo. We just landed on the moon in the Lambo, taking pictures with the zoom and the angle.
Hello future millionaires, this is Aztec and this is the CSE. Today we're going to be jumping into the best categories to place your money in the next bull run. Remember, this is going to be an institutionally fueled bull market. I also believe that there will be certain elements and categories of our industry that will receive almost mass adoption like interest. So we're going to be diving into that today. I'll be using DeFi Llama to holistically take a look at the different categories that are out there. In addition, I have some updates on Immutable that I need to share with you. It kind of ties into the categories and the research I've been doing. Additionally, Vitalik has some very interesting things to say about the future of this industry and, you know, L2s, L1s, scaling horizontally and all that. So we'll jump into that. I'll give you my opinion on that. And then lastly, I want to talk about where Bitcoin is today and where it's going. So let's jump into it. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, you need to do it. I'm not a shiller. I don't do any sponsored content, only share you my hard research. Now, I am an insider. I work in the industry. So, you know, you should take everything that I'm telling you and run with it. Now, the categories out here. This is DeFi Llama. It is mainly talking about, you know, the DeFi kind of aspects here of the different categories, and I won't be looking at the combined TVL, but I am looking at the protocols because this kind of shows you the saturation of the category, and I'm going to highlight each of these in various colors. So this green here is kind of like a place that you should be looking at. The lime green is where I think there's probably the most potential, and yellow is where there is potential, but I have some reservations. So we're going to jump into it. Now, liquid staking is very interesting to me because I believe that institutions will be looking to acquire assets, and I believe that the major institutions are here already. So they have their assets, and they want to probably find a way to stake those assets, get a yield, and then play with those assets in DeFi as well while staking to get more yield, to essentially maximize their returns, and that's liquid staking for you. I do believe that it is a very saturated market, so in my opinion, I don't really have very much interest in placing money here, but Lido is probably one of, you know, is the king in my opinion. Lending also very oversaturated. There's a lot of people building in the lending and borrowing kind of, I guess, category, and the king there is Aave, in my opinion. From what I can hear from the inside, they're doing some huge things with institutions. So that's where I would be looking. DEXs, I think Uniswap is the king, but there is some really interesting technology that's coming around the corner that people honestly don't even know about yet. And you wouldn't know unless you were kind of like in the industry or at some of the big conventions like ETH CC. So for instance, Mangrove is a very interesting protocol out there, but I would say the king is Uniswap, but I'm very bullish on QuickSwap as well. Obviously, I'm a huge Polygon guy. As you can see, I have the All Roads Lead to Polygon AI created art behind me. But QuickSwap's very interesting to me as well because they're not just a DEX, they're also, you know, kind of in the gaming sector also, and they've also recently started quick perp, so they're in the derivatives, so they kind of bleed into many different DeFi kind of categories, and I think they're doing some interesting things. They're the #1 DeFi primitive kind of ecosystem on Polygon ZK VM. So in my opinion, you know, I am a contributor, so take this with a grain of salt. I hold Quick, so you know, please take this with a grain of salt. I'm not telling you to invest, but that's where my interests are with DEXs. But it's also very oversaturated, so I don't have a ton of money in these areas. But I think people should be looking at liquid staking, lending, DEXs, and derivatives. I believe that derivatives, as you know, institutions come in and look to kind of move the markets, they'll be looking at leveraging their assets. So there are going to be some huge winners here as well. Now, I think where we have some really large opportunity are real world assets. So protocols using real world assets. There's not a whole lot of saturation here yet. And I believe it's a very fascinating place. I think that as interoperability becomes a bigger thing, maybe like with Chainlink and CCIP, that more real world assets will come on chain. I also see a lot of real world assets coming on chain with Polygon and not very many other like platforms or builders out there. So I think there's going to be some huge winners in the real world asset kind of category, but in my opinion, I've not done enough research to really tell you about any small protocols or small teams where you're going to get a lot of X's, but that is definitely an area you want to look at. Synthetics is essentially the same and not very saturated. The king there is probably Synthetics, but the project. But I think that there will probably be some very interesting plays that come out of here. So I've highlighted both of these in the lime green area. Now I need to do more research in these categories, but I believe that they will probably have a lot of interest there. Now indexes also not. I honestly don't know any like amazing indexes, but I do believe that as institutions move into the space, this is an area that you'll need to look into. It looks like it's on the higher end of lower saturation building, but I think this is probably a category that we haven't even seen really fully develop, and the real strong players will be coming in the future. Privacy, I have some reservation now. You guys know I'm a huge privacy guy, but the thing is the more that I've researched this category further and further, I realize that we're still early. People just don't understand the true need. And guys, I dove so hard into privacy last year, and I was probably just a little too early. And you guys know I'm usually early. I found Polygon, under 2 cents before people understood that Polygon would be so important, because of the L2 kind of factor. Now, this is the thing, privacy is super early. It, I think, will still have a very interesting play in this next bull run, but it might not be, the mega kind of return that I really envisioned last year. Maybe not until the end of this decade, the next bull run after the bull run that's coming up. Now, that's where my reservations lie, just because people don't understand it. People don't care about privacy, and they don't care about it until things go wrong. But in general, there's a lot of people that don't really care about it. So there's a lot of learning here, but it's an area that I'm definitely looking at. Payments also, I think, this is kind of being built out. I have it in yellow because I've some small reservation to payments just because I haven't done enough research. But I think in the institutional-led bull run, this is another category to look at. I believe options are going to be huge. A lot of institutions use options as a strategy. And I have some friends at Himalayan Finance that are building there, but it's also not necessarily a category that I fully researched on the blockchain level, other than just fundamentally knowing that this is an area that will receive a lot of attention. So I've highlighted it in green. There will probably be some massive winners here, and it's still undersaturated, as you can see. Now, probably some of the easiest, most safest areas to place money, in my opinion, right now is gaming. So again, this does come back to Polygon as well, because Polygon and Immutable X, or Immutable, were the #1 projects out there in the gaming space with the most adoption. And I do believe institutions will try to find a way into gaming. But in addition to institutions, I do believe that this type of technology is right at the precipice of totally finding adoption, because the technology is now mature and able to scale. With Polygon's Immutable ZK-EVM, that ZK-EVM technology is infinite scale. So I think this is definitely a category that is right on the edge of just booming massively, and really probably around the end of this year. So my eyes are kind of doubly looking at here, because I don't think that it's just going to be institutions that are going to be locking in their foothold here. I also think that gamers, and gaming is bigger than, entertainment and movies and music, so I think that there will be a lot of adoption in general here as well. Now, oracles, it just connects everything. It feeds the information from the IRL to the to the on-chain, and so you have to have an oracle. From what I see, I know there's some oracleless type protocols out there, but really you need oracles at this time still. And Link is the absolute king here. There's very little saturation. Most of the oracles that would probably be outside that of this number that DeFi Llama is not accounting for are just really subpar anyways. So I would say Chainlink not only is an oracle, but they have an interoperability protocol that they've just released called CCIP, cross-chain interoperability protocol, and they're the king there. That's a massively safe play in my opinion. In addition to some of the other names I've released here today on this video, I think you got to look there. Now, gaming, it's Polygon and Immutable. These are the top projects in my opinion. Now, I think that you'll get more bang for your buck in the gaming category with Immutable, because it's a smaller market cap, and they also have a team that is fully designated to building gaming infrastructure and kind of facilitating the back end deals, the business development, and they're, I think, a little bit closer connected to Web 2.0 gamers. So mass adoption, I think it's like this massive convergence for gaming. And also recently they showcased that there are a lot of investments moving into gaming, and right now, if you're in this space, you know that investments are really hard to come by right now. Like the people are VCs and large investors are just not investing right now. But gaming is trending up, and as you can see, there was a low here at the end of last year, and that makes sense because that was really the bottom of the bear market. I called that, so I'm super excited to have called that. But as you can see, we've been trending up, so a lot of money is moving into the gaming. So smart money knows that gaming is going to be a big category. Also, there are a lot of developers that are moving into the Immutable kind of ecosystem to build games, and this is trending up week over week, guys. This is an only up chart, so I think that Immutable is one to watch just because of the fundamentals that I've said. It's it's an undersaturated kind of area in the Web3 blockchain space for that really is going to fundamentally change the world. And there's a lot of money moving in, and there's a lot of developers moving in. Now, also on Immutable, before we move into the Vitalik news, they have infinite scale now because they have the ZK VM. They have the Immutable Passport, which really onboards people in under 30 seconds, guys. It's not a crazy Web3 kind of experience where you have to go through many hoops to get there. Now, I don't think that going through a lot of hoops stops people from playing in Web3, because once they realize the true nature of Web3 and being able to own your assets, I think the hoops don't necessarily matter, but Immutable doesn't have massive hoops. So that's a plus. The Polygon partnership is huge because Polygon is adding to what Immutable is doing and helping them. They have fun AAA games building on Immutable, and they have many simple turnkey solutions for developers, like APIs and all kinds of other things for developers. They have unlimited creativity and potential. I mean, they have just an amazing team, and the IMX upgrade that's coming is really fascinating for the token, in my opinion. So again, Immutable is huge, guys. You got to look into it. Now, Vitalik, let's move into Vitalik, guys. I found what he said extremely interesting. This was an interview that was done at ETH CC. Now, 3 points that I took from this interview that really are telling that I just wanted to share with you guys. Number one, dexes will take over sexes. Now, if you're an OG, you probably just, you know that. And so I'm not going to beat this one over the head too much. But essentially, I think that dexes are going to be where everything moves. Sexes are going to slowly die, whether it's regulation or, attacks or, from various things like governments, government bodies, regulators, just being centralized is not the place to be. So dexes is where I think a lot of capital, investments, interest is all going. So in my opinion, I'd rather invest in dexes over sexes. Coin is an interesting play just because it's here in the US. And I think, they probably do well. Also, what Vitalik said was that, in my opinion, he tactfully answered a question here. I'd like to probably share it here, but he said, in my opinion, that he's more optimistic on L2s scaling horizontally versus L1s. And one of the main takeaways there was that his concern about bridges. Now, one of the interviewers did bring up trustless bridges, which are coming in the future soonish, as he said, but I think that's still pretty far out, and bridges are a main concern. So in general, I think that Vitalik is very interested kind of in, things building on top of Ethereum. Obviously, it's Vitalik speaking, but he is also, from what I've seen, he's pretty impartial, and he just speaks the truth. And he's very close to the technology as a dev, as a builder. So I really believe that he actually knows what he's talking about here. And from my research as well, I think this is true, that the future of scaling horizontally really is L2s. Scaling horizontally on top of Ethereum. It's not L1s, but I do believe L1s scaling horizontally will still have a lot of traction. I just think that that the scale at this moment, and from what I can see, the research papers that are coming out really kind of highlight L2s as being, and obviously, guys, that I believe that that's Polygon. Now, to move forward, also, he believes that copies of DeFi primitives will just be on every chain, and the main takeaway there are the hacks. So, hacks from kind of more complex structures, as he said. So again, in my opinion, guys, this is him saying that he's more bullish on Ethereum and L2s that are connected to Ethereum versus L1s and L1 kind of ecosystems like the Cosmos, and that he believes that there, on all these different L2s that are out there, there will be copies of DeFi primitives. So as an example, you could say like there would be a quick swap on every one of these L2s or these major hubs where there's a need for liquidity and exchanging tokens. And so I find that this was a really interesting statement, again, having to do with hacks, bridges, and the concern of where the liquidity truly just sits and not being on complex structures, so just being on Ethereum. So this was very fascinating to me. I'll have to share the link for this interview, and hopefully it doesn't get taken down because it's very fascinating and it's telling. Now let's move into some technical analysis, guys. I don't really have much to say other than what I already said. I think that Bitcoin is in this little range here. It is showing a bit of weakness here, in my opinion. You can see on the daily that the RSI is pointing down. The Stokes, as you can see, are ticking downward, and you could see this blue line cross underneath the signal. And so you might see another leg coming down in the near future, and I think that's where some of this sell pressure is coming from. But in general, on the daily, so this is a little bit more zoomed out, the MACD does show that sell pressure in general is subsiding. So though many of these indicators are pointed down and our candles are underneath the 21 daily moving average now, there might only be a move down to maybe the 50 exponential moving average if we're on the bear case, so 29,400, or maybe even 28,400 level kind of area. And maybe we come down and we kind of rest upon this trend line that has been building here. So maybe we're kind of scooping down and we're going to find support and then move up. Then hopefully we would be moving up to 34 to 35K and break that level so we can enter the bull market. But on a positive note, if we're looking at this, we do have another attempt. If we look on the 4-hour chart, we can see there is some support here, and maybe we have a little bit of a bounce. Also on the daily, zooming out, you can see that the sell pressure is subsiding. So there is a bit of bullish sentiment here. We also are posturing bullish, and we're in a overall bullish structure here. So maybe we don't go much further down or find support in this area and just move up. So I think this week is probably where this week, the next week are where we've kind of finally make a decision and we kind of know where we're going in the more immediate term. But overall, we're still moving sideways, and until Bitcoin either moves down to this 50 or this 100 exponential moving average, there's not a whole lot more that we can glean from this chart. So overall, the market is just moving sideways, and there's a lot of macro events going on, still stuff going on with the SEC and the Ripple case, and them settling potentially in the near future. Also, all the other macro things that are going on, stuff with the dollar. I think that the dollar is very interesting here, showing a bit of strength here, but now finding some resistance under this kind of 21-day exponential moving average. So if we start moving down again, there's a good chance that there's some bullish sentiment here. So I think, if you're looking at macro, if you're looking at, just the charts, the Dixie, the dollar here the dollar index as a indicator, kind of the sentiment, the fundamentals in the space, BlackRock and all this stuff, there's a really bullish case to say that we just kind of have a little bit of a short squeeze here, because I think a lot of people are looking for these lower levels and, move up to 34, 35. Obviously, probably, the 32.5 area first, but we might just skip past this bearish scenario. But anyways, that's my take. Even though it's kind of funny, but even though things, in my opinion, do look a lot more indicators, the overall picture that's being told, in my opinion, is more bearish here. And not like incredibly bearish, like we're going to make new lows. I'm just saying, like I said, hit the levels that I was just talking about, bearish. I'm still overall bullish in this area, even though there is a lot of negative sentiment. But anyways, guys, that was my quick update today. You need to follow me. Again, I don't have sponsored content. I'm just telling you about the research and the inside information that I get on the daily. So never give up on the future of money, and subscribe, guys. Take it easy.